Well, I'm glad I woke up this morning. I'm thankful that I'm alive.
Yeah, and I checked, my heart is beating, so I suspect I'm alive as well. So listen,
Yeah,
normally I give you a big fancy introduction, but we don't need that.
and we don't have
I've been collecting more questions, and
Good.
I went through a whole stack,
Yeah.
and I narrowed them down to, I have 7 here. We don't have to cover all of them, but I thought these were interesting. I thought the topics were diverse enough, but I will tell you this in advance. Most of the questions are about drugs.
Okay.
So it seems to me, just looking at a microcosm, the people who've been in this group, that with everything they're hearing and seeing and believing, they're somehow hoping or suspecting that there will be a drug. I'm not talking about vaccine. That's a whole different issue.
Yeah.
But if I get it, what can I take? Or what can I take so I don't get it? And I chose some of them because there is a lot of overlap. But if you don't mind, let me read the first one because it's a little chatty, and then I'll turn it over to you, okay? So this is from a woman. She says, I'm on 4 different meds, and my husband takes a bunch of others, including, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, Plaquenil for his arthritis.
Hydroxychloroquine, right.
Yeah, so I guess I didn't know that. She didn't know that until a point. So she says, I try to always have backup meds in the house, and when I learned that Plaquenil is the same thing as hydroxychloroquine
that we use for malaria.
Okay. I got an extra 90-day supply. So first of all, I want to ask you if that's even sensible or reasonable, but let's keep going. She says, thankfully, we don't have the virus, but I am so tired of hearing the president, Fauci, and the news media argue over whether this drug is the right prescription for someone who has coronavirus. Can you give me your educated opinion? I do have some older, very close aunts and uncles. If a member of my family gets sick, can I give them my supply? Is the dosage the same as for someone with arthritis? My husband takes 200 milligrams twice a day. And then she later sent me a follow-up and she said, oh, and I also have a supply of Tamiflu left over from last year. Will those help if someone gets the current sickness? I'm going to turn it over to you. That was a lot.
Let me do the last question first. It's never a good idea to take medication from last year. It's also not a good idea to take a medication that was used for the influenza virus for something that's different than flu, right? Influenza virus is a separate virus. This is a novel corona type virus like SARS or MERS. So the answer to that is no. The other question about Plaquenil, unless you are a licensed physician in that state and have a physician-patient relationship with that person, never a good idea to give someone else's medication as strong as Plaquenil to them. 2, France did, French hospitals studied with about 200 people, and they found that the difference between those who were on ventilator and or died was no different than those on chloroquine than those who didn't take chloroquine. So not a great clinical study to show that you should take the drug. Paul, God, what was his name? Offit, out of Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, my hometown, did their study and found that not only didn't it work the way that other people have told you it would work without any basis or clinical studies, but the side effects were horrendous, whether they were the awful abdominal side effects, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach cramping, stomach pain, shortness of breath. So how would you know if you're getting better or getting worse? The worst part is if you are older and already on a bunch of other medication, which I don't know what those are, and maybe they're cardiac medication, this also caused dysrhythmias or arrhythmias. So that if you're looking to take chloroquine to help stop the virus from replicating, be very aware that these adverse events, the side effects, can be worse than fighting off the virus. It is.
I'm not asking if this
is. It's not antiviral. It's working as what's called an ionophore, and it's pushing or getting zinc into the cells. So here's an idea. How about you start taking your zinc? Well, I'm just saying. So I'm not a big fan of taking a potentially toxic medication that has known severe side effects when it's not been proven and or approved for that specific virus.
I'm not asking you if this is correct thinking, but I'm asking, is this common thinking that people...
This is common thinking. Someone says, this is good for you, take it. Well, it's something that went through a 7-year process to get passed for malaria, and people take that because You don't want to get malaria. I've been in Africa where we had to take the anti-malarial drugs, and I will tell you that the side effects, if I wasn't worried about having malarial shakes from the mosquitoes that were biting us every day, I would never have taken the drug because of the side effects. And the older you get, the more you're going to feel those negative side effects. So
with the back and forth in the media, is the best advice for people to just go like this? Like they're very confused, because on one hand they hear the drug you have in your medicine cabinet, and nobody said it this way, but this is the way she heard it. The drug you have in your medicine cabinet can save your life if you get coronavirus.
You didn't hear that from any medical professional. You
Okay.
heard that from non-medical professionals. So if it's a non-medical professional who either is an infectious disease specialist or has experience with it, then yes, the best advice is that.
Good. All right, second one. This is an interesting question. Why are we so worried about heavy metals? And then Dr. Weiss, I think he means Blyweiss, I'll say Blyweiss. Why are we so worried about heavy metals? And then Dr. Blyweiss recommends silver. Isn't that a metal? And I heard that there's a new drug made from gold that can save lives by preventing the worst coronavirus symptoms. It's called Oranafin. Can you ask Dr. Blyweiss if he knows about it? Should we be consuming metals at all? How can we tell the good ones from the bad ones? And let's do this before people start eating their change, their quarters and dimes.
Okay, so there are those metals out there that are important to us. Things like copper and selenium and zinc and cobalt and iron and magnesium and manganese and vanadium. So it's not all those heavy metals. The ones we are concerned about at low levels of those metals are the lead, cadmium, mercury, arsenic. Those are the specific metals you're looking to worry about. Things like gold and silver. Well, silver I mentioned before gold. Silver is known to be an antimicrobial, in other words, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. We have silver in our everyday diet. It's in fresh water, seawater, food, milk, mushrooms. We're getting the silver. Also found out recently that there are receptors in the myelin sheath, that fatty sheath that protects and surrounds each nerve in your body. And it has receptors for silver.
Wow.
Why would the myelin sheath, which is critical for electrical transmission down the neurons, have receptors for a metal that is a perfect conductor of electricity? So there's differences in metals. You've got the bad guys from the people who eat sushi tuna twice a week that we find have heavy mercury levels. People who are heavy smokers, we have cadmium levels, lead from the atmosphere. So there's differences. Now, the gold, Oranafin, that's a different name. There is a gold salt product out there that we've been using for rheumatoid arthritis because it's anti-inflammatory. So it's not that new. It's actually an old drug. I would think it's probably not as effective as taking a safer bioactive silver hydrosol. But I wouldn't take a drug like that has not been confirmed by and approved by FDA. But
so we don't have mercury receptors in our teeth? No, I'm just kidding.
No, we just have mercury in our fillings. Except for those people that hear radio waves in their head.
Right.
From it.
You know, I feel compelled. No, I'll just go in order. My wife, you know, when people are stuck at home together, husbands and wives that aren't used to spending all these hours together, they drive each other crazy. I mean, we will see a lot of insanity coming out of this.
Yes, I remember it was a friend of the family, older, who said, he's retiring early. I don't know what to do with him when he gets home because I didn't see him from 7 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night.
All right, so listen to this one.
Go ahead.
My wife, after he finishes with your advice, I think marriage counselor is next. My wife bought this gigantic, messy juicer. Like right there, you know it's not going to be good, right? My wife bought this gigantic, messy juicer 4 years ago. It's noisy. She brings in bags of carrots and celery, and the juices stink, if you ask me. They smell like soil.
Oh, that's
She spends more time cleaning and caressing that juicer than she does me. At this point, she should probably marry the juicer. All of a sudden, she's giving me the "I told you so" attitude. She keeps telling me those juices are better than drugs, that nobody in her little juicing circle, or whatever they are, has even gotten a cold. She's now turned it into a family project. I don't want to be totally stupid, so when Phil said, "Ask the doctor," I figured I'd ask. By the way, she made me drink beet juice, and I have to admit it wasn't awful. Is there any truth in juices making a big difference in the ability to fight this disease?
So, one, I think that beet juice tastes like dirt, right? People say it's earthy, but I think
He didn't say it tastes good. He said it wasn't that awful.
Well, it depends on the fruits and vegetables that you're juicing. My basic formula for a healthy juice to get the flavonoids, polyphenols, and everything that you want as antioxidants to help fight this, classically is 4 vegetables and 1 fruit. I will do that. I do have a formula of something called blood, because it's beet juice and some apple juice or carrot juice. Again, those are high in sugar, so not too much. Ginger and lemon. And this is a kick butt juice for vascular dilation, for immunity, for digestion. Ginger, I use about an inch or so of ginger, a whole lemon.
Ginger?
Well, a root, the actual root, right? And a lemon and some apple juice and some beet juice, unless you're going to get, 2 nice beets. That's a magnificent juice. But if you're going to be taking the dark green leafy vegetables and red, yellow, orange pepper and blueberries and anything that is highly colored rainbow type fruit or vegetable is going to give you the antioxidants, flavonoids, polyphenols, other things you need to keep your immune system stronger. I do caution against just using a lot of carrot juice or apples because of the amount of sugar in the juice without the fiber of the actual fruit or vegetable. I like celery, carrot, apple together, greens, and then I get a little crazy. I throw in some ginger for a bite, little lemon juice, and you're going to get almost everything you need. It is not stupid that people in her juicing circle are not getting a cold. They're probably getting a lot of vitamin C and zinc and everything else that they need that they're not getting because they're not eating, chewing, and swallowing the foods. It's a lot easier to juice them at least once a day and get them.
So this is important. It's not the juicing, it's what you're juicing, because you could also eat that, but most people don't, right?
Yes, and what you're missing from the juice is your gut microbiome is not getting its fair share of what it needs to grow to make a healthier microbiome and a healthier immune system.
Right. We will, in this program, get to a phase of it where we incorporate a green smoothie, and I encourage people to make it in the blender. So we're not just extracting the juice, but we're keeping the fiber in there. Good. Tammy Lang is our cooking expert, and she does a segment every day at 5 o'clock. And her husband, Billy, is kind of the off-camera color commentary guy. And he made a comment the other day, and I think you'll probably agree with this, but he used to hate vegetables until he stopped eating sugar, and then his taste buds changed. And, I find that to be common, that people are pouring salad dressing all over the salad because the vegetables have no taste, because they've completely killed their taste bud sensitivity with all the sugar they eat. So when you start eating more vegetables, you start appreciating the taste of them. Whether or not you like the taste of soil, that's an individual preference.
Well, especially if you have an organic vegetable or fruit, you actually taste what it's supposed to taste like. The difference between an organically raised strawberry versus a commercially raised strawberry is one tastes like a strawberry and one tastes like, I don't know, nothing. And he's absolutely right. Also, people who stop smoking cigarettes awaken their taste buds, and suddenly every vegetable, every fruit tastes better.
Yeah. So. I want to tell you something interesting. You know that I got sick from mold, and here's a really interesting, strange phenomenon. When I was a kid, probably started when I was about 6 or 7 years old, apples, peaches, plums, nectarines, I couldn't eat. I love them, but if I'd eat them, I'd get big, heavy blisters in the back of my throat and start coughing. When I got better from the mold, I ate an apple And I would try like once a year because it looked so good. You know, I'd go, oh, no, I can't do it. I ate an apple and I was like, it's okay. And since then, I've been eating apples. So I don't know what the correlation was, but yesterday I had my first plum since I was 7 years old and had no reaction. So
Well,
organic plums.
you had a chronic inflammatory a systemic issue going on back then.
Back then.
Yeah.
So
even
did
a little bit.
the mold incident and the correction from it have anything to do with the fact that I can eat those fruit now?
Don't know for sure, but 1 and 1 still equals 2.
Okay, so now I can eat organic plums. Question, if I'm taking 4,000 milligrams of oral vitamin C a day, do I even need to get IVs?
Well, good question. Normally, you can take more than that, depending on what your bowel tolerance will be. I think that taking 2 grams twice a day is probably a very smart minimum. Some people who can't tolerate 2 grams at a time can take 1 gram 4 times a day. I have people who are taking 12, 16 grams a day without getting gastric distress and diarrhea. So
Spread out into 1 or 2 gram dosages throughout the day, you're saying, right now?
Yeah, every hour or so.
Right.
Until you get grumbling in your belly, or you're passing a lot of gas, or you're having loose stool. That's your body saying, hey, I have enough. I'm using the antiviral component of your vitamin C. I'm boosting your immune system. Oh, and by the way, I'm killing circulating viruses. But when it gets to the point where you don't need it anymore, your body will in its wisdom, will release it into the toilet. So.
Yeah, I got some heavy IVs yesterday. And today my bathroom smells like the vitamin shop. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. That's why I like asparagus. I like the post-eating asparagus in the pepper.
Yeah, we've had that conversation.
Yeah.
I see things advertised on Facebook and Amazon that claim to clean the air. I've seen negative ion pendants that you wear around, not you, but that people wear around their neck for $69, and air purifiers that claim to remove 99.9% of bacteria and viruses for over $1,200. Do any of these work? Does it make sense to spend that kind of money to protect the air in my home right now? And the $1,200 is only for 1 room. Do I need one for every room in the house? And this just, it represents, I think, healthy consumer skepticism, because there are a lot of opportunists out there. But really the question is, does this make any sense that a negative ion pendant or some kind of air filter can be protective? What do you say?
Well, can you see on the, because I've lost the video on my side. Do you see this?
I see something, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is my personal Wein, W-E-I-N, Minimate, M-I-N-I-M-A-T-E, that I wear when I get on an airplane, a train, or if I'm in a movie theater, because it basically gives you 50 square feet, allegedly, of purified ionized air without virus or bacteria. And I used to get a lot of, I guess it was the post-airplane cough,
Right.
from sharing, whatever non-tuberculin bacteria or virus that the kid 4 rows behind me had when he was sneezing and coughing. And since I've been wearing it, it's been about 10 years, I've not had that issue at all. I also do have in my house the $400 air ionizers with ultraviolet light and charcoal and a HEPA filter. I don't think you have to pay so much money for it. Most of them are between $300 and $500, and they'll do a room. There is something called Air Doctor that's supposed to be very good. It is being it's been talked about by our friend Mark Hyman as being a very good, as well as Dr. Joel Kahn. So these are 2 docs I respect, and I think they work. I have 2 of them in my bedroom, 1 of them in the living room, and 1 I wear around my neck when I travel.
And without even asking you this, I'm sure you didn't go out and buy these because of this coronavirus. You have
No,
them in
I've
your
had
house all
these.
the time.
I've had these for years. I've had these for years. Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, I do too. I have air purifiers around my home. So I believe there's virtue to them. But I think you don't, in a moment of panic, run and buy everything that's advertised on Facebook because you think it will save your life. But this is a time to become aware of things that maybe you should have been using all along. Next question. I love this group, and I have a question for the doctor. Then in parentheses it says, Phil, don't get offended. I really want to know his opinion. Phil and Dr. Kristen and the trainer who does the athlete sessions, he means Holden, keep talking about biohacking. I've been researching it. Now, last time you heard me talk about my peeve with the word researching, because it means they're Googling in most cases, but I've been researching it. Are you a believer? I'll sit back on this one.
If we define biohacking as being the way that you as an individual can improve your body, your life, by foods, exercise, mind-body issues that you're doing, meditation, mindful breathing, good sleep, then yes, I'm a believer, because up until 80 years ago, 90 years ago, we did not have these diseases of chronic degeneration that we see now from our dietary, lifestyle, environment that we are presently living in. You can go back farther to the invention of the light bulb. So now we have light all day long. We don't have our natural, diurnal rhythms out there, our circadian rhythms. So if biohacking means to get into your body and do what it needs for you to do to keep it healthy, I am a believer.
And I know that you are, and I'll tell you how I know, because before I became a biohacker,
Yes.
I've always understood the virtue of sunlight and grounding and all of those things that nature gives us. But you sent me for the first time to Hope, can't think of her last name, the hyperbaric in
Yes.
on Hillsborough.
Yes.
So that's a biohack, right?
Yes, you're putting more O2 in, and yes, and for people with cancer, it's one of the ways that cancer does not metastasize is in a high oxygen environment. But we've known that since the Nobel Prize in 1931 with Otto Warburg. We know that cancer can't grow in two environments, a highly alkaline environment, hence a plant-based diet, and a high oxygen environment, hence hyperbaric oxygen.
Very good topics for our next conversation. Honestly, I mean that. We have a lot to talk about on that. Okay, one more and then I'll leave you alone, okay? All right, this is a long one. I think you may think this is crazy, but it isn't a joke. I own a small dairy farm, and my vet's daughter was diagnosed with corona, and he swears he injected a veterinary drug called agravectin, and she was fine in 2 days. She tested negative for the virus a week later, and then she went for a second test, still negative. She's back at work. This is a drug he uses to sometime eliminate parasites from my animals.
It's ivermectin. Okay.
He goes on about conspiracy theories and insists we already have the cure and the government knows and Bill Gates is somehow involved. But all that aside, I myself wouldn't inject a family member with a veterinary drug.
Good, that's good.
Do you think what he's saying has any truth to it? He's been my vet for 20 years and never seemed crazy. He insists this low-cost drug can cure every case of corona.
So ivermectin was used, I think, starting last week at Broward General.
Really?
With a husband and wife pulmonologist.
That's what he's, the agramectin is ivermectin? It's the same drug?
Yes, it's going to be ivermectin, which is anti-parasite.
Okay.
And what he's missing in this question, he owns a small dairy farm. That means the cows are this big. Is that they use the ivermectin in conjunction with hydroxychloroquine and zithromax and zinc. That's how they're using it. And what they're finding, if I remember, is that if you are not needing oxygen, if you catch this soon enough, classically it's going to be 48 hours, 72 hours, and you do all those things, they are seeing a remarkable improvement in those people. And they're not going on the ventilators, or if they're on ventilators, they're not dying. But
how does that compare to what you said earlier about people using the drug and suffering side effects? I mean, is this combination somehow superior to that?
Yes, but they're using it for people who actually are confirmed and have the severe symptoms of COVID. That if there is nothing going on, if they're just going to go on the ventilator, then you're either going to die or you're not going to die. They're doing it to prevent that, and they're finding they prevent it. And then you'll deal with the dizziness, nausea, vomiting, foggy thinking, cardiac arrhythmias, or anything else you get from these drugs. Remember, when you have 3 drugs that you put together, you have 100% chance of an interaction, a bad interaction between them. So interaction or death, but this is confirmed with symptoms. So again, it's a choice.
So probably not a good idea for anybody who suspects that they have any virus to inject a veterinary drug into themselves or their children, correct?
Probably not. Now, what we're talking about now, ivermectin, is the tablet that they're using. And I've used it for people with parasites. It's very good for that.
And for little cows.
For little cows, that's right. That's where they get the little cheeses with the red wax around it. Yes,
exactly right.
But again, they were talking about the metals. Yeah, you know how I feel about silver. I take my silver 3 times a day, and so far so good. My family has it, so. But it's not the standard silver that FDA is sending out warning letters to, or what Jim Baker or Alex Jones has been fraudulently trying to put over on people.
Yeah.
So,
well, I have my small array of supplements, which I always take, but silver is now added to that, and it's the same one that you take, the one you recommended to me.
right.
And
So.
this is something, you know, again, I want to make a point. It is not because I have fear of the coronavirus. It is because I want to have a healthy immune system,
Right.
period. So
Right.
whatever virus shows up, I'm as best protected as a human can be, right?
Right. That's right. That's right.
Dr. Blyweiss, I appreciate your time. I know the group does. I've got more and more questions, but I'll continue to whittle them down. So once a week we can get
Thank you,
together
sir.
like this.
All right. You have
All
a
right?
good weekend. Bye.
Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye.
See ya.